Earlier this month, me and two other tournament organizers, Coach Zeke and Creestab, the TO for the massive Monthly of Ether series, hosted the Pride Power charity event. Our goal is to bring together players from all over the country to compete for a cause. But to start, we had to pick out a charity. After a week or two of going through dozens of choices, we decided to fundraise for the Rainbow Youth Project. Truthfully, there were so many LGBT charities that caught our eye. It was really tricky to pick just one, but we were drawn to the Rainbow Youth Project since it's an LGBT crisis line that also provides educational opportunities and community resources about inclusiveness. If you want to learn more about the program or donate yourself, I left some links down below in the description. Now that we had landed on a charity, we had to come up with some fun graphics and info cards to help promote the event. In this process, I found out that Raster was canonically gay, so I thought it was fitting to include him on the graphic. But posing a Birdman with a lot of text can be a little tricky. I came up with a few iterations, a lot of them filled with typos, but we landed on the design that you saw today in the thumbnail. All that was left for us as TOs was to finally announce the event and start collecting entry fees. Truthfully, I was really worried the event wouldn't do great, since we were charging $5 to enter, with all the money going towards the charity. In case you weren't aware, most Wi-Fi tournaments are free to enter, and happen either monthly or weekly. It's really rare for a Wi-Fi tournament to ask for money, since they're normally meant to be a more casual way to compete than a local, since there's less investment both time-wise and monetarily. You all did your big one though, and we got 29 entrants, a really high amount for a pay-to-enter Wi-Fi bracket. Within these players, we had some really notable names, like Derai, a top Rano player, Iota, one of my favorite Orcanes, Sophilo, the superstar Zetterburn and winner of CEO, as well as Rimren, the Arcane player who helps me with the Advanced Arcane guide here on the channel. Speaking of those guides, let me know what characters you want to see a guide for next. Out of all these players, Sophilo had the highest chance of winning. However, all four of them are so high level that it really could have gone to any of them. With signups all done and players seated, we were ready to start. As I mentioned earlier, me, Zeke, and Creestab put on this event as a collaborative effort, and since the goal is to fundraise for charity, we each streamed the event with as many sets receiving as many viewers as possible. Some footage will be pulled from their streams throughout the video, and their channels will all be linked down below. There's also a count on the side of the screen showing how much money we've raised for charity within each round. Keep an eye on it to see the final amount go up. Getting started with round 1, there wasn't any crazy upsets. However, I got to feature Soul versus T-Rex on my stream. T-Rex wasn't a player that a lot of us had our eye on going into the event, but they cooked up their opponent really quickly. Their gameplay was incredibly elevated, and they took the best of 5 in about 10 or so minutes. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but this entire bracket was best of 5, meaning that we'll get to see a lot more gameplay and a lot more clips. This set put T-Rex on the map for me though, so I was excited to see more of their gameplay. Naturally, I had to see how they stacked up against Iota, the high-level Arcane that I mentioned earlier. Arcane normally does really well into Loxodon, especially in the advantage state. But Loxodon's big axe, or paddle in this case, can normally wall out Arcane pretty effectively. This set unfortunately saw a bunch of SDs due to both high ping on Iota's side and a really crazy ledge hog here from T-Rex. But there was also a lot of really impressive combos and confirms from both players. Normally, I'd tell you how a set ends, but I think I'd rather just let you watch the last match. Ooh,
Ooh.
I cannot take too much more damage before I'm at a kill percent.
Yeah,
So
I mean, one
super early.
solid
No.
combo could end things right here.
Oh,
Caught by the
no.
Instead to the other side of the stage. Gonna make it back though. Not a
Ooh,
concern.
that's
That crowd rage
That's a
is
shield.
insane for the
Such a small
Loxodon and the
space
shielding
with
Arcane.
To go is Arcane. Oh man,
You get down.
there.
This is the grab. Up tilt. The back throw.
Wow.
DI mixed up.
With that, T-Rex beat Iota, marking our first big upset of the bracket with a 3-1 score. For our next stream match, we featured Sophilo versus St. Pat, a crack player. Sophilo started this set on Maple, but it wasn't looking too hot for her, with St. Pat cleaning up game 1 pretty quickly. However, she then swapped to Zetterburn, and there was a clear improvement. But most notably, St. Pat wasn't going down without a fight. Going into this event, I hadn't heard of St. Pat before. With the fresh upset from T-Rex still on my mind, I had bated breath. Could there really be two massive upsets back to back? It was looking very possible. Sadly, St. Pat wasn't able to take the set win, with Sofilo being both more consistent in neutral and advantage. Moving on to a top 8 winners side qualifier match, our next stream set featured Durai vs Sealder. Durai is obviously really well known and a Rano player, but they started the set out with Arcane. Sealder was another player coming into this event that I wasn't super familiar with. They played Fleet, and they played her really well, especially as we saw in this set. It was a nail-biter, going all the way to Game 5 with Sealder barely squeaking out a win in the last stock scenario, making another big upset and moving on to the top 8. We were then able to catch the first set of top 8 in winners, Rimrin vs Sealder. Rimrin was able to take the set in a convincing 3-0, but that's not to say that it wasn't close. Both players played so well, but Rimrin's game knowledge and advantage state were simply next level. Between you and me, I was taking Arcane notes the whole time. If you want to go back and watch this set, I've left the entire VOD linked down below. Dipping into top 8, we got to feature Corndog Lover versus a familiar face on stream, St. Pat. Both these players play heavies, and they both played really well, making the set super explosive, especially off stage. I feel like I could sit and yap and tell you all about it, but I think I'd rather just show you a few highlights so you get an idea.
This is a
I'll take it
brutal
back.
lead.
Pat did
wow.
not look uncomfortable there at all.
Yeah.
Using the rock to just turn that into a reversal, turn that into a kill. Finally gonna go down. Give Corndog Lover a chance to build up some magma stacks. Maybe try to build up some percent here too.
Really
Yeah, this is
and as we saw, even like Sofilo was like not getting like massive ledge stuff here, but
She's just up to like ledge crap.
oh, let's go.
What is happening?
big one here.
Oh my
we have to
god.
try to get that special fall.
the grab.
Oh.
This was a loser set, so the loser was eliminated at 7th place. Fresh off their win, however, we followed St. Pat into their top 8 versus Sealder, the fleet we just saw against Durai, and Rinrin. The matchup is historically rough for Crag. However, St. Pat kept it really close. Normally you see a lot of fleet ledge guards in Crag stocks at criminally low percents, or force them into terrible positions. However, St. Pat did not let this deter him from going for big confirms themselves. Sealder ended up taking the set in a super close 3-2, moving them on to loser semis. Our next set took us to one you might be familiar with. That's right, it was a rerun of Iota vs T-Rex. However, this time was a lot different. Both players were in losers, meaning that if either of them lost this set, they wouldn't be around for another chance to keep climbing through bracket. And unlike the first set, this one wasn't marked by connection issues or tons of SDs. It was a super tight Game 5, showcasing the very best of both players, and in a shakeup from the previous set, Iota was able to squeak out a win. This let them move on to loser semis, and knocked out T-Rex at 5th place, as I mentioned. While these sets were going on, Sofilo and Rimrin were fighting in winners finals over on Zeke's stream. The set was super close, a theme throughout this top 8, with both players having big moments and taking the match to Game 5. Sofilo got the upper hand on the last stock, securing herself a spot in Grand's winner's side, and sending Rimrin to losers finals, while she waited for loser semis to wrap up. Speaking of loser semis, Sealder and Iota got their chance to play. Seeing Fleet vs Arcane wasn't new to the stream, but this time the pacing was a lot different. Sealder was able to squeak out a win in a 3-1 set score. This is all led up to the big losers finals, Rimrin vs Sealder. As I said, this bracket had a lot of Fleet vs Arcane, but this one was even faster paced. I'm kinda starting to feel like a broken record, but it's the truth. They kept getting faster and faster. This speed, however, was too much for Sealder, since Fleet's not known to be able to withstand the speed of a player like Rimrin, as well as an advantage state that's so crazy over the top. Rimrin was able to take the set in a convincing 3-0, ending Sealder's run at 3rd, and promoting Rimrin up to Grand Finals, where she'll get a chance to rematch Sofilo. I could yap and keep narrating the event, but Grands was absolutely incredible. I think it'd be a shame if I only told you about it instead of showed it to you. These are some of my favorite moments from Grands, which went to an incredible Game 10, after Rimrin was able to clutch the first round, resetting the bracket. I will say one thing that I've noticed about both these players is we have talked about their advantage a good bit,
Oh no! Okay.
but yeah.
Near reverse hitting. Sorry to interrupt.
Trying to cut you off with a scream, but that was some
But
shenanigans.
sometimes that's just how it goes in this game.
I feel like this kind of match is like so back and forth, you know?
Yeah.
Wow,
Oh my
just
God.
really good
There's so
up air,
many
but
Oh
so
my
low.
God. Yeah, Rembrandt is an insane person. Like,
Yes.
are we seeing the same thing? This is ridiculous. The
Yeah,
lengths
she's-
that she's going to get an up air that won't kill. It's just
Yep.
like, oh my god.
This definitely is like a map that favors Zetterburn in my opinion for similar reasons as our last one. However, the side blast zones are a little bit larger here. So you probably will not be seeing those crazy kills off the side quite as often from Sofilo.
I wonder
Definitely
if
looks like
Rimmer
Rimmer's
wants
getting
to
there
go
pretty good.
somewhere
Oh wow.
a little bit larger.
Really great use of that there.
Oh.
And gonna be able to get the ledge hog to steal off that stock. It was looking that's something you'd be into.
Heading back to the
Little
Crystal
peanut out.
Oasis, where Remrin took the
Yeah,
end
I'm
of Game
kinda
5 pretty handily.
surprised to not see the stage banned due to how like dominant that game 5 was, right?
I
Like
think it was that Game 5 might have been, in Sophie's mind, more of a mental thing, because
Gotcha.
this is a fantastic stage for Zetter, and one
Mhm.
that Sophie's pretty comfortable on.
I feel
Hard
like
not
the,
to be.
a lot of like Arcane combos, right? Like Arcane wants to be comboing you
That
across the
purple?
stage.
And like I said, couldn't happen any other way. Last talk, game 15 for both these competitors. They are swinging, they are tech chasing, overextending, reversaling back and forth.
Uh-oh.
Now Shine up air.
Both
my
these
goodness, she
players
has
have
the
so
lure.
much state and kill confirm potential though that every hit could lead to a kill.
Certainly at this
on.
point, 94% on Remrin, only 54 on Sophie, but that could still result in a crazy edge guard, as we've seen Remrin do so many times. An aggressive call out there with the forward strong, but goes unpunished. And now we're left here. Sophie once again.
Oh,
and the
so
edge guard goes low.
Oh no. But barely gets clipped by the up special as well. Up air, down air, tech's off the side. We can't find the strong punish. Wave shine, but the grab doesn't connect. Now we're dash dancing
Oh,
on the
man.
puddle. The forward air purples.
Yeah.
Sofilo, the gayest rivals player.
On the last game, Sofilo, the people's champ, was able to clutch up and take the final kill, winning the whole bracket. Each player that entered this bracket played so well, and I was blown away by the level of competition. As the final set ended, we had raised over $800 for charity, a staggering amount and over double our initial goal. This kind of money is really life-changing for people in need, and it's hard for me to put into words how proud I am and how thankful I am of the community for coming together for a real cause that makes real change. If you still want to donate or learn more about the Rainbow Youth Project, you can. I've linked our Tiltify fundraiser down below. However, if you're watching in the future or the donation link doesn't work anymore, I'm also leaving a direct link to the charity that you can donate to that way. If you aren't able to donate, that's all good. Sharing the link and information about the Rainbow Youth Project is always a great way to give back. That just about wraps up the bracket. Thanks tons for watching today's video. If you're still around, I want to let you know a little secret. I'll be competing in the ABSA Creator Tournament Monday night live on stream here on the channel. I'll be answering any questions you have about her, so feel free to join me then, or comment them down below. I'd love to see you there. Bye for now.